Three numbers, three weapons, three different eras of war. $500. That's what a Katyusha rocket costs, the weapon that humiliated Israel in 2006. 30 kilos of steel and explosive fired from a pickup truck that no one on Earth knew how to stop. $50,000. That's what an Iron Dome interceptor costs, the weapon that changed everything in 2011, the miracle that turned night skies over Tel Aviv into light shows instead of funerals. And $3.50, the cost of the electricity it takes to fire Israel's newest weapon. A weapon that doesn't launch a missile at all. A weapon with no moving parts, no reload time, no ammunition to run out of. A weapon that travels at the speed of light and destroys anything it touches in under 4 seconds. Welcome back to Grand Structures. In our last video, we told you the story of the Iron Dome, the $210 million gamble that America called impossible. Today, we go further. This is the Iron Beam, the weapon that makes the Iron Dome look like a slingshot, and the grand structure that might permanently change who wins and who loses on every battlefield on Earth. The Iron Dome is a miracle. We established that. In 2012, in 2014, in 2021, it has intercepted thousands of rockets and saved thousands of lives. But it has a problem that its engineers knew about from day one, and that has been getting worse every single year. The problem is this: the Iron Dome has a minimum range. There is a distance so close that even a missile moving at Mach 2 cannot get there in time. If a rocket is fired from less than 4 kilometers away, there is simply not enough time for an Iron Dome interceptor to launch, acquire the target, and reach it before it hits. Sderot, one of the most bombed cities in the world. It sits 1.2 kilometers from the Gaza border. For the people of Sderot, the Iron Dome, the greatest missile defense system ever built, is completely useless. The rockets arrive in 15 seconds. There is no time. There has never been time. And there's the second problem: saturation. In the 2021 conflict, Hamas fired 4,360 rockets in 11 days, nearly 400 per day. The Iron Dome batteries have a finite number of Tamir interceptors loaded at any moment. Fire fast enough, fire enough rockets in one salvo, and you can mathematically exhaust an Iron Dome battery's ready ammunition. The enemy doesn't need to be accurate. They just need to be relentless. And the third problem, the one that keeps defense ministers awake at night, is the economics. Israel's enemies know what a Tamir missile costs. Hamas knows that every volley of $500 rockets forces Israel to fire $50,000 interceptors. Fire enough rockets, and you don't need to hit anything. You just need to drain the treasury. These three problems, minimum range, saturation, and economics, are what the Iron Beam was designed for. All three, simultaneously, with a technology so different from everything that came before it that when Israel first announced it was working, most of the defense world said, "That's science fiction." Let's start with the physics, because understanding why a laser can destroy a rocket requires understanding something counterintuitive. This laser doesn't explode anything, it doesn't fire a projectile, it doesn't even touch the target. It simply heats it very, very fast. The Iron Beam fires a 100 kilowatt infrared laser. To put that in perspective, the laser pointer in your classroom is 5 milliwatts. A powerful industrial cutting laser is around 10 kilowatts. The Iron Beam is 100 kilowatts, 10 times more powerful than an industrial metal cutter focused onto a point smaller than a coin from up to 7 kilometers away. When that beam hits a rocket's body, The metal absorbs the energy and converts it to heat, not gradually, instantly. Within 1 second, the skin of the rocket reaches temperatures above 1,000 degrees Celsius. Within 3 to 4 seconds, the metal structurally fails. The rocket's body ruptures, its fuel ignites, it breaks apart in midair. But here's the engineering challenge that took Rafael and Elbit systems over a decade to solve. The atmosphere fights back. Air is not empty. It contains moisture, dust, aerosols. When you push 100 kilowatts of laser energy through even clean air, the laser heats the air molecules in its path, and those heated molecules bend the beam. The laser starts to defocus. This is called thermal blooming, and it is the single biggest enemy of high-energy laser weapons.
The solution Israel developed is called adaptive optics. The laser system fires a low-power guide beam ahead of the main beam. Sensors analyze how the guide beam distorts as it travels through the air. Then, a deformable mirror, a mirror whose surface can change shape thousands of times per second, pre-distorts the main beam in the opposite direction. The distortions cancel each other out. The beam arrives focused, tight, and lethal. This adaptive optics system, with mirrors reshaping themselves faster than the human eye can perceive, is the real grand structure inside the iron beam. It's not the laser. Lasers exist everywhere. It's the intelligence that keeps the laser coherent over kilometers of real dirty, humid, dusty air. And this is also where the $3.50 number comes from. The laser runs on electricity. Electricity generated by a diesel generator or eventually by a vehicle's own engine or by a base's power grid. At 100 kilowatts, firing for 4 seconds costs approximately $3.50 in electricity. There is no missile to buy, no propellant, no warhead factory building Tamir interceptors around the clock, just electricity, the same thing powering the lights in your house. The iron beam didn't appear overnight. It was born in secret around 2008, while the Iron Dome was still being tested and debated. Rafael's engineers and the Israeli Ministry of Defense quietly began a parallel program. What comes after the missile? They worked under almost complete information blackout for over a decade. The US had its own directed energy programs, the airborne laser, the high-energy liquid laser area defense system, and most of them failed spectacularly. The airborne laser program alone cost $5 billion before being canceled. The Americans concluded that high-energy laser weapons were too technologically immature for real battlefield deployment. Israel watched these failures carefully, and they concluded something different. The Americans were trying to solve the wrong problem. The airborne laser was trying to destroy ballistic missiles from hundreds of kilometers away from an airplane in all weather conditions. That's an impossible engineering problem. Too much atmosphere, too much distance, too much vibration. Israel's target was different. Short-range rockets, mortar shells, drones, threats that are closer, within 7 kilometers, threats that are slower, threats that don't have the hardened, reflective surfaces of a ballistic missile. The physics of the problem are completely different at short range, and at short range, Israel's engineers believed the laser was beatable. The first public test came in 2020. Footage showed a ground-based laser system intercepting mortar shells, rockets, and anti-tank missiles in live-fire tests over the Negev. The results were classified, but the footage that was released was enough. Every target intercepted, every test successful. Then in 2022, Rafael announced something unprecedented. The Iron Beam had achieved its first fully operational test, intercepting rockets, mortars, and drones at ranges up to 7 kilometers, including in a salvo test, where multiple threats were engaged simultaneously. The system cycled between targets in under 2 seconds. 2 seconds to destroy one target, 2 seconds to move to the next, over and over as fast as threats appear, limited only by the power supply. This was the answer to saturation. You cannot overwhelm a system that never runs out of ammunition. But grand structures always have weaknesses, and the Iron Beam has a very specific one. The same atmosphere the adaptive optics compensate for in clear desert conditions becomes an enemy the moment the weather changes. Rain is the laser's kryptonite. Water absorbs infrared energy extraordinarily well. A heavy rainstorm between the iron beam and its target can reduce the laser's effective power by 70 to 80%, essentially making it useless. Dense fog, heavy smoke, sandstorms all do the same thing. In the Negev desert, where Israel primarily deploys, clear skies are the norm. But this is not a system you can deploy in monsoon season. The second weakness is thermal loading. Firing a 100-kilowatt laser continuously generates tremendous heat inside the system itself. Current iron beam designs can fire for extended periods, but the laser optics and power systems need cooling time. In a prolonged barrage, this could theoretically create windows of reduced capability. And the third weakness, the one that enemies are already thinking about, is countermeasures. A rocket coated in a highly reflective material reflects laser energy instead of absorbing it. A spinning rocket distributes the heat around its body instead of concentrating it on one point. These countermeasures exist, they can be implemented, and they will make the iron beam's targeting harder. This is the eternal truth of weapons development. Every shield creates a new sword. Every new sword demands a better shield. The iron beam is not the end of this race. It is the newest lap. Hamas and Hezbollah are already studying its test footage. Engineers in Tehran and elsewhere are already thinking about reflective coatings. The arms race doesn't pause for anyone.
Here is why the iron beam's timing is not just important, it is urgent. The single fastest growing threat in modern warfare is not ballistic missiles. It's not even rockets. It's drones. In October 2023, Hamas used modified commercial drones to knock out Israel's observation towers along the Gaza border before the ground attack began. In Ukraine, both sides are firing hundreds of cheap FPV drones every single day, drones that cost $400 each and can destroy a $4 million tank. In Yemen, Houthi forces launched over 300 drones and missiles at Israel in a single attack in April 2024. $1.3 billion in one night to intercept drones that cost a few $100s each. This is the new economics of warfare, and it is catastrophically unsustainable for any defender using missiles against cheap drones. The iron beam changes this math completely. A drone costs $400. An iron beam intercept costs $3.50. You could intercept every single drone fired in the April 2024 attack for the cost of a decent dinner. The economics of defense, for the first time in history, flip in favor of the defender. This is why the US Army, the UK Royal Navy, and the German Bundeswehr are all aggressively pursuing laser weapon programs. This is why Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon have invested billions in directed energy. The drone threat is real. It is now. And a missile-based defense against it will bankrupt any nation that tries. Israel got here first, not because they have more money, they don't compared to the US, but because they have been under this specific threat from this specific range for this specific reason for longer than anyone else. Necessity, as always, was the mother of invention. Israel's current iron beam is a fixed ground installation, but the roadmap is far more ambitious. Raphael has already demonstrated a vehicle-mounted version, a system that can be carried on a military truck and deployed anywhere within hours. The Israeli Navy is working on a ship-mounted variant to protect vessels from drone swarms in the Red Sea. The next milestone, expected by 2026, is full integration with the Iron Dome command network. In practice, this means one unified system where the battle management software automatically decides, is this threat best handled by the iron beam or by an Iron Dome interceptor? Close range, clear weather, drone or mortar, Iron Beam. Long range, ballistic missile, any weather, Iron Dome. The two systems working as one brain, two arms. And beyond that, Raphael is already working on a 1 megawatt version, 10 times more powerful than the current system. At 1 megawatt, the beam could potentially engage targets at ranges exceeding 20 kilometers. It could intercept cruise missiles. It could, theoretically, engage aircraft. The line between a missile defense system and a weapon of offense starts to blur. The US has taken notice. In 2023, the US Department of Defense announced a joint development agreement with Israel on directed energy systems.
The same country that funded the Iron Dome after initially rejecting it is now fast-tracking collaboration on the Iron Beam. History repeating itself. American skepticism followed by American investment. We started with three numbers: 500, 50,000, 350. And those three numbers tell the entire story of where warfare has been and where it is going. For most of human history, the attacker had the economic advantage. It is always cheaper to destroy than to defend. A $500 rocket forcing a $50,000 response is not an anomaly. It is the ancient, fundamental logic of war. The aggressor sets the price, and the defender pays it. The Iron Beam, if it reaches its full potential, inverts that logic for the first time in history. $3.50 to destroy a $500 rocket. $3.50 to destroy a $400 drone. $3.50 to stop a weapon that cost more to build than the electricity bill to kill it. The attacker no longer sets the price. The defender does. Whether that future arrives depends on the weather, the optics, the power grid, and the ingenuity of whoever next tries to defeat it. The arms race is not over. It never is. But for the first time in a very long time, the shield has a chance to be cheaper than the sword. And a small country in the desert once again got there first. This is the Iron Beam, the grand structure made of light, the weapon that costs less than a cup of coffee, and the technology that may make everything that came before it, every missile, every interceptor, every billion-dollar defense program, look like the very beginning of the story. So here's what I want to know from you. Does the Iron Beam change the balance of power, or does it just kick off the next arms race? And if you were an enemy of Israel right now, what would your countermove be? Drop your answer in the comments. Some of the best analysis I've ever read comes from this community. If you haven't watched the Iron Dome video yet, part 1 of this series, the link is right here. And next on Grand Structures, we're going underground, the network of tunnels, bunkers, and hardened bases that Israel built to survive a war that never stops. Subscribe so you don't miss it.